of the speakers to do kind of their key takeaways here. And the way we're going to do this is probably in the reverse. The way I typically do this is in the reverse order, the way you presented. So I think we'll start with Dr. Del Tito, and then we'll go to Nikki, and then we'll go to Florian. If each of you could just take a moment to summarize what you think should be key takeaways from your presentation. We have a little bit of time, so we don't have to rush through it, but certainly not asking you to stretch it either. Just give our audience kind of, this is what you should take away from my portion of the presentation, then I'll come back on the line and we'll wrap. So let's start with Dr. Del Tito, please.
Okay, thanks. So I would say that a couple of items that are key takeaways from the presentation that I've provided. One is around the risk assessment, which you'll often do at the beginning of the qualification of a vendor. I think this determines a lot of the vendor qualification expectations, because it will determine the need for an on-site presence. It will also determine the type of audit that you're going to perform, and it might also determine the level of CGMP control that's going to be required for that vendor. So it gives you a very good indication of what to expect from a vendor, or what not to expect from a vendor, as it were. So that's one key takeaway. I think the other one is quality agreements, which I alluded to quite a few times during the presentation, because they really do govern the relationship between the sponsor and the vendor in terms of quality expectations, quality oversight, and the like. So I think that it will dictate to what extent quality is expected from the vendor, and what you can expect a vendor to commit to. And that's really important to do up front and get a good agreement. It's not to say that you can't revise it down the road, because as I've said, it's a living document, but it's best to try and get that established up front and to get agreement on that so that you're both on the same page when issues come up, and there's not as many discrepancies that need to be escalated. So those would be the two main items I would say that to take away from this presentation.
Great, thank you for that. That's Ben Del Tito. Thank you. Nikki, do you want to give us your takeaways, please?
Yes, I suppose I ought to come up with two as well, and two actually completely different ones, if you like. One is more from the human side, if you like, and I think one is more from the technology side. So for me, it's all about collaboration and working together, and that's something that Premier always focuses on with our clients. You know, it's getting it right at the beginning, making sure everyone is on the same page, and everyone is focused on what needs to be done and when it needs to be done. So very close collaboration and working together. So that's the human side. And then more on the technology, if you like. We are seeing more and more virtual audits take place. I suppose that's as relationships are developing with our clients. A lot of our clients are conducting virtual audits on us now. We're starting to see that, which works very well. And also, we do some contracting out as well. So we have some vendors in some of the geographies where we don't work, for example, and some of the services we don't cover, like laboratories. And we do some virtual audits on our clients as well, and they all on our vendors as well, and they do also work very well. But again, if you've got established relationships and collaboration and trust, then I think they work very well together.
Okay, thank you, Nikki. That's the great two sides of that. Very, very good. Thank you. And then finally, let's go to Florian. Florian, do you want to give us your final key takeaways?
Welcome. Thank you. I think I'll be touch on the line of Nikki and Dr. Del Tito. And the first thing, and I'm really like stepping back a little, and while I was preparing for this webinar, and just the title, right? When we talk about the supplier and contractor framework, it's almost like we're thinking of it as a separated entity, let's say, within our environment. And of course, as we observe today, I think that's definitely not the case. I mean, supplier vendor management in general is definitely one input, but into the overall governance risk and compliance ecosystem of an enterprise. So it should definitely not be dissociated to it. So the risk, all the risk and issues that we've been talking about, should be embedded across, again, all the quality processes. And that we should be focusing on the importance of measuring everything as the transactions between the vendors and the organization occur. And that means that the companies, they should not have to gather up all the transactions and numbers crunch at the quarter end, but they should really be able to see the measures on demand. So, again, from a technology standpoint, I mean, the systems and a complete quality enterprise management system, again, with embedded as well effectiveness checks across all those processes, should be definitely supporting that entire supplier and contractor framework embedded, of course, within the contract giver organization. I think those would be my summary.